Well, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Maduch. This is Raging Verbalist number 107. Raging Verbalist, if you don't know what that is well, that's me. I'm the Raging Verbalist. And it's because forever I have been a talking kind of guy, John Paul Mendoza, Raging Verbalist. So there you go. And by the way, if you have not figured out how to see this on a regular basis, what's wrong with you? Come on. But anyway, let's get right to it. What we do here is we cover topics of interest to me. I've got an alert. I see Murphy. We've been talking about Murphy. Murphy just keeps kicking us in all kinds of places. So anyway, so was Murphy right? No, Murphy. Today was Warhol right? And we're talking about video. And of course, with me as always is the lovely Sandra. Sandra is having all kinds of interesting stuff going on in her life today too. Besides which, she had a minor tsunami happen yesterday. So now she's playing hurt. She's a trooper though. She's a trooper. So, and by the way, we don't pull many punches, but we also don't get into serious politics. So today we won't either. All right. And also go to positionwinbook.com, and check everything out there. All right. So Sandra, what are we talking about today? What are we going to go over?
All right, we're talking about video. So does everyone need to know how to look good on video?
Well, I think if you sample many videos, as I have, I think the answer is no, because people don't look that good. But if you want to actually look good on video, which I think you should. So the answer to me is yes, I think people should look good on video. By the way, I wore these particular glasses so that way you can see that I have interviewed people who have done all kinds of goofy stuff on videos. And, and it's a cool effect, but sometimes you don't want to have that Howard Stern look and you want to actually use your own eyes. People say that that's a way to be more trustworthy. So should everybody look good on video? I think you should. I think that video is going to become more and more of a popular thing. It's going to keep growing. And it used to be really, really hard. I mean, if you look at how difficult and expensive it was to do video, even take any time frame. But now it is so simple. But now we have to actually step up our game, make it better, get stronger at it, and do some really smart things. So the answer is, I think, yes, even though most people are on the decided no. And today we're trying to push back against that tide of the terrible looking videos.
All right. So why should someone care to really be good at doing this?
Well, I think that the reason why you want to do it is that if you're trying to communicate, which is, why are you making a video if you're not trying to communicate something, that you really should look better. I had an opportunity years ago to be in a studio and was sitting there, and it was astonishing because they would talk about bringing people in who had no idea what they looked like on camera or any of those types of things. Now, today it's even worse because everybody has a studio, right? I mean, I'm using a studio here in a hotel room from the road. So everybody now has a studio of some kind. So I think the reason why your motivation is simple. You're going to get your message across better. What you don't want them to do is looking at you doing crazy stuff like, move your head this way. Get serious. Think about how you look on camera and what you can do to look the best you possibly can. By the way, humans are not trained to look good in videos or even photographs. I mean, all you have to understand is that this is not an innate skill. Some people say, oh, well, that person had it. Never met a single person who was really good on camera that didn't learn how to look better on camera. Have not met a single one of those people. Met a lot of professionals in my career. And I'm talking about professional people on film, not, pros like my Vegas Day pros, but that kind of thing. So.
All right. So during your coaching career, how many times have you run into when the camera goes on and the person just seems to kind of go blank?
A lot. And to me, that it's always interesting. We were in Vegas doing an event and everybody was yucking it up and talking it up and doing all of that stuff. And we said, hey, everybody's in like a good mood. And we weren't even serving alcohol. I mean, but everybody's in a good mood. They're in a happy state. and banter and all that. And then we said, okay, hey, we want you to stand in front of the green screen and do a little promotional video, do a little testimonial, do a little of this, rat-a-tat-tat, do that kind of thing. And it looked like that just, that they had that Men in Black flash of light, and they got up there and they started talking and go, hi, I'm Bob Smith, and I'm here in and it's like, what happened to the other guy? Bring the other guy back. And then as soon as you turn off the camera, they're now back to being their other person. So I think a lot of people have like camera fright. It's same thing happens in audio land, by the way. I'm amazed at when I turn on a recording, a recorder, not a recording. That would be, we would be listening. So anyway, but if you turn on a recorder, how many people go and not know what to say? And this happens a lot. So this is why I explain to people that if you really want to get exceptionally good at this, you want to learn some things to overcome this. And more importantly, is you may want to have some things written down. Now, I can tell you that oftentimes there are people who write these things down and then they become really bad at it. In fact, saw this, I won't mention names, but we were at Freedom Fest and I watched somebody introduce somebody who I had interviewed. Guy was really a great speaker. I mean, the person I interviewed, and he had his friend do the introduction. Now, for those of you who have never done introductions, it is not as easy as it looks. And if you want to do it well, you really want to learn how to do it well. And this guy literally read 3x5 cards, and he would look down and he would start reading, and then he would look up, and it was cool because they were filming this, by the way. And every time he bent down, you could see this bald spot, and every time, and it's like, wow. And it's just like, and by the way, you could tell the guy worked hard at writing the 3x5 cards, but I'm going to tell you, having done a whole bunch of MC work in my life. MC is master of ceremony. For those of you who don't know what that means, it isn't MasterCard, so, because, and again, all these acronyms, or MC Hammer. I mean, but again, now I'm showing my age because people go, MC Hammer, is he still alive? So if you're out there, MC, put a comment down below, and I'm happy that you're still there, because, but anyway, I can tell you that one of the things about being an MC is that you really need to learn how to be very fluid and be very successful. And the only way you can do this, in my experience, is that you have to have time in the box. You have to actually go out and do this and work at it and become, engrossed in what you're doing. Because if you do not, what will happen is you look staid, you look frightened, and nobody, all I can tell you is I've never seen a deer, and I'm talking about the kind that nibbles and chews on your trees and stuff. I've never seen a deer, because if you're ever driving and you see a deer on the road and it hits your headlights, they will freeze. Well, that's what people do usually. What happens when they turn on the video. So there you go.
All right. So do you think, or would you say that there's this intimidation factor?
Definitely, because people become very self-conscious. The first thing that happens when they see that, are you recording this? Oh, I don't know. My voice sounds terrible. Well, and that's because you have no idea what your voice sounds like. I mean, well, you do, because you're sitting in the shower and you're singing. You're going, that isn't bad, is it? I'm sounding good. Yeah. But what you find out is that when you get outside of that acoustic room, which is what, by the way, that's why you sound better in a shower usually. And I often wondered if they could design a shower so you could sound really good, and then you could just have people stand in the shower without the water, of course, and just record from there. It'd be a kind of an odd thing, but there, maybe that's what you need to do. But I think the intimidation factor is that they become very self-conscious, they become very frightened. And I've literally seen people that it looks like their feet are nailed to the floor, and they start doing the sway thing because they can't move their little feet. Now, again, I'm doing just a headshot on this thing, but you can imagine that I've seen people on stage that are just so nervous, so inhibited, all of those things. So I think there is an intimidation factor. And for those of you who are scared to death about this thing, then don't do it. But I can tell you, for most everyone, if you get better at it, you're going to get people who will react to it, and they'll react positively to it.
So with that, what are some of the simple things that people can do to be better on video?
Well, before I got sober, I would always say you could have a good drink, but then I, kind of, but
Takes
well,
that option out of there.
well, and I'll tell you some of the worst stuff. I mean, if you really think you're just, I'm so funny, but you're hammered or you're high, just have it recorded, because when you watch it later, you're going to go, oh, because usually you're incoherent is what the problem is. Everything, that's the opposite. So that's like singing in the shower, but everything seems funny kind of thing. So here's some simple things you can do. First and foremost is that what you really want to do is understand that no matter what is going to happen, you're not going to die. Okay, so and I mean that seriously, because I've seen people just totally traumatized. So relax is a good, important thing. Now, if you can't relax, then what you want to do is you want to be prepared. So one of the most important things is to be prepared. Are you ready to talk? Are you ready to go through this? And what does that look like? The other thing is that, and I learned this from a cinematographer. So if you've ever seen one of those movies where they show the person, and I'm on not on a green screen. So, where they put their fingers up like this and they're trying to frame it, just understand that the camera does the same thing. So you get into a frame and what you look like. And I have seen lots of videos where people are like this. Hey, how are we doing? All this other stuff. And by the way, that's really not good, because people wonder, what is wrong with this person? What are they doing? Why are they just totally unaware? So be aware of, so it's relax, prepare, think about your framing, and you'll get a lot closer. Now, we're not going to be able to cover everything today because there's a lot of stuff to cover, but I'm just trying to get you to become better at doing video than you were doing it before. By the way, if you are in any kind of, if you're in sales, if you're in communications, if you're in marketing, if you are an advocate, if you're an evangelist, if you're doing anything to promote something, you should really learn how to become more relaxed as a speaker, but more importantly, how to do better videos. And yes, the videos have gotten better for doing Raging Verbalist. And yes, things have gotten and progressed along. And that's because every time you learn a new skill set, there's a learning curve. And that's the thing that you need to think about. So the final simple thing is get off of your own back. You can't carry both of you, and it is easier to do that, and you'll do a better job.
All right. So what are some of the disasters or bad calls that you've had with people on video? And I know that you've done like 40 interviews for Freedom Fest, so there's got to be one in there.
So I have done some amazing interviews, and I have done some amazingly bad interviews, and I've seen some pretty ugly ones. And probably the worst one and this is not the list you want to be on. This is like the pantheon of bad, is I had a guy who changed his shirt while we were doing the interview. Now, he knew we were going to interview him. He knew all that was going to go on. His hair looked like he'd gotten his toe stuck into a light socket or something. He tried to mat it or slap it down, and it's that was just bad. So I have had some atrocious circumstances. Now, again, I just kind of play through. I never try to correct people. I mean, I try to help them a little bit, but it's up to them. If you're an adult, you should try to look as good as you possibly can. By the way, if you've ever seen a really good production, a really good professional production, understand that they do it because they're making it up. I said that in a little bit of a whisper. So they're making it up. So they make it look really good. Now, I never forget sitting there, and I was at a video shoot, and I saw this rather attractive woman, and I went, wow, her clothes look spectacular. And they said, yeah, because we've tacked them, which meant that what they did was they in the right places. See, if you have it in the wrong places, then it looks like your body is some kind of funhouse mirror horror story. But what they did was they tacked it, which means that they would pull the fabric in certain places, and they would do 3 or 4 stitches and essentially sewed her in. Now, people say, well, that's terrible. People want to see, nobody wants to see what you look like when you just get up out of bed. Sorry to say. I mean, I've been married a long time, and I can tell you, it's something that everybody puts up with, but it's like, yeah, okay. So yeah, I have had some disasters like that. Probably the worst one I ever had was I was on stage. I mean, that's a video interview. One of the worst ones I ever had was I was on stage, and we brought people on stage. Always dangerous to work with children, animals, and audience participants, because the audience participants, you always end up with somebody who's like, their friends have to like shove them up onto the stage. And this woman was so nervous. I mean, I thought she was going to have a heart attack. And, when you have an audience, and it wasn't huge, 300 people, but when you have an audience like that, it can be a little unnerving. So you have to do some things to kind of make things better. So all I can tell you is that is a serious, crazy stuff that happens. And what you want to do is you want to think about, how can I do this better? How can I get there? And I may have a solution for you, at least partial solution for you, which is what you really want to think about doing is this. Maybe what you should do is you should go out there and pick up my book. Shameless plug time. Shameless plug is that you can go pick up either one of my books. One is
Pew pew.
And the best part about that, Sandra, is we don't have to pay a royalty on those sound effects, do we? Huh?
Yeah. That's right.
There's some guy in a basement in Oklahoma going, damn it, I was working on that sound effect. So anyway, but you can go and you can pick up Remote Work for a Better World, in which we talk about some of the things so you don't look like a complete idiot when you're doing these kinds of things. The other is, most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Position to win. If you don't want to lose in business, go out and pick this up. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. By the way, the Remote Work is only available exclusively on Kindle with Amazon. Also, if you want to go to positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com, you can buy this book that most businesses fail. You can ask me to autograph it. Tell me what you want to say, as long as it's not something like super crazy, and I'd be happy to do that. And it's a perfect Christmas gift. And if you want to actually look better, this is one way to at least get yourself in the right frame of mind. All right, Sandra, we have to move and press on.
All right. So how can someone practice beforehand so they don't look unprofessional?
Well, that's the cool thing about technology today is that with technology today, you can actually practice this. Years ago, people would say, John, you tell me to practice, but I don't know how to do it. Because what they would do is they would, stand there in their whatever they were wearing, and they would look in the mirror, and then they would get really self-conscious because they're like, oh, I look like that, and get all kind of wigged out and stuff. But now with technology, so as an example, if you're a Zoom customer, I don't know about other stuff, but if you're a Zoom customer, you can actually go into the settings and click on the background part, and you can actually see what you look like as you're sitting there and kind of tell what you're doing. You can also record yourself live in meetings, and you can do it actually without having anybody else on the call, or in the meeting. So that's kind of a cool, easy way to do it. And then that way you can actually, if you want to, send it to somebody and say, hey, how does this look? Can I look better? What happens? And if you have not noticed, behind me is a beautiful background, expertly crafted by, of course, the one and only, no other, Sandra. Our lovely Sandra does these for us and for me, and also for clients. Another shameless plug. If you want to get in touch with us, we can help you out there. But the most important thing is that you want to practice, and you want to, in fact, deliver the whole speech or deliver whatever you're going to do. Biggest mistake I've ever seen is people go, they kind of race through it in their mind out, yeah, I'm going to cover this point. Oh yeah, I'm going to do this. Oh yeah, I'm going to do this. I do this. And I've seen people who say, yeah, I've prepped for it, and then when it goes on, it goes south quickly. Now, this was one of those that if we had a video camera, we would have had to have, I don't know, kind of push this guy over the edge or something. But I had a client where we set up a webinar for him, a seminar for him. And we actually filled all the seats, and we had all that. And I was going to be there to help him. I was going to be that nudging along, taking him through. And he claimed that he had done this presentation hundreds, if not over 1,000 times. And I said, we really should practice it. We should really do a run through it. And by the way, you should do a run through with it. And we get on and we got all these people in the audience and they're muted as you know, is often the case. And he starts out and we get a few minutes into it and he does something that's really stupid, which is he starts stalling out. Now, here are the 3 things that he did wrong. He did more than 3, but here they are. And hopefully you'll learn from these so you can get better. First off, he refused to practice. So he didn't know how long something was going to take or not take. It's very easy to lose track of time. This is why when you're doing like a live broadcast, somebody is talking to you here in your ear saying, oh, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, bumper music's coming. We're going to a hard break. Now, in YouTube land, it's not as important, but it's still important. You should always have a timer. So practice your entire whatever you're going to do. Make sure that you have a timer so you can see a timer and you can have a sense of pacing, rhythm, and what needs to happen. And the third thing, so he didn't practice. That was it. Number 2, because I don't want to cheat you. Number 2 mistake that he made is that when he presented, since he claimed he presented this as a speech, what he really had done is he had actually presented it as a sales call, sales meeting. So he was relying upon the interaction of the audience. When you are doing this with a video, this is important for everybody. When you're doing it as a video, you're actually talking to yourself, or in this case, I'm talking to Sandra, but you're actually talking to yourself. So you have to be aware of what you sound like, and you have to put in all of the effort. You have to remember, you have to give up 100+% of it. I know there's not more than 100% for you math geeks, but you have to give all that you have to do, or you will definitely stumble and fall. So make sure that you understand that, which is, so he needed interaction from the audience. So like 12 minutes into a 1 hour presentation, he says, well, and he had controls over this, is that he opened it up for questions from the audience, which is a disaster in the making. So he did that. And the third thing that he did was that he got into interactive discussions with the audience. I can tell you, having done thousands and thousands of hours, and no, I'm not making that up, of doing Zoom meetings or their predecessor type things, is that I can tell you that if you ever get to the point where you just open it up to the audience, first off, the audience, it's unpredictable. So it's a little bit like seeing that cute bear on the side of the road. Maybe it looks good in a animation, a cartoon, to go scratch its ear and stuff, but it's not in real life. And just like that bear that will maul you to death, screw this up when you're trying to do a production, and you'll find out how bad it can get. So yeah, those are some of the things that I think that are how you can practice ahead of time so you don't look unprofessional, and make sure that you always have that timer. The clock in your head needs to be there.
All right, so how do you deal with distractions?
Well, I have had to deal with distractions over the years. For those of you who don't know, Raging Verbalist is my YouTube and Facebook outlet. I also do something called Speed Start Monday. Speed Start Monday is the sales meeting for those people who either have a sales meeting that they hate, boo hiss, or they don't have one at all. And people from around the globe get on a call with me every Monday. Now, I've had to deal with lots of different distractions. And when I first started, I was not very cognizantly aware of how easy it was to have distractions. So here's my short list. Some of these I don't have, but I have had to experience them. Was staying at a friend's house, and their kids were told they had to be quiet for a period of about an hour and 15 minutes. Now, I don't know what the true duration of how long a child can be quiet when they're fully awake. And also, if you tell them to be quiet, usually what that does is that prompts them to say, yes, let's go batshit crazy at that point in time. No? And if there's 2 or 3 of them, though, they will get into trouble. Now, if you have kids, you probably already know this, and you're going to have to figure out how to do that. So you may want to make little signs and tape them to the door and say, recording in progress. We need to keep that from going on. The other thing is if you have pets, and of course I have pets, cats, dogs, and I have had to stop on Speed Start Monday and go deal with a dog or an errant cat. We used to have a cat that would love, she would just sleep in my office and wouldn't leave the office. And I would be running late because, again, it starts at a specific time, 7 a.m. Pacific, and she wouldn't leave. And the first time I thought, this is going to be fine. She's totally asleep. Now, just like the children, and I closed the door, is that what she did is she woke up and realized I was there because I was talking, didn't see anybody else because I was just talking, and came over and laid under my desk and proceeded to purr so loudly that the person who does the audio editing said, I can't get it out of there. I said, leave it in. It's kind of charming. But what I learned is that I needed to pick the cat up, feed the cat, and then therefore the cat slept somewhere else. So you have to deal with that. Also, if you have a gardener that shows up, the time that they will turn on the leaf blower to maximum capacity is when you are recording. So just keep that in mind. Also, air conditioners and heaters are fun, and they're great distractions because people will sit there and they'll get this noise and all this other stuff. And for many of you, and here I'm going to be as politically correct as I get, if you have a significant other or a spouse, the likelihood of them knowing what being quiet is pretty slim. I'm going to tell you that right now, because people will say to me, how in the world, John, do you do some of these things? Well, I've done them in crazy places. And I'll tell you the craziest place I've ever done one is I literally had to call in. I know, you may wonder what it was. I had to call in, and it was in Las Vegas. I had just gotten off of stage and I had spoken, and I couldn't get back to my room. So I went into a wooden phone booth. There was a bunch of phone booths, and I closed the door. And what happened is that I started doing my part of the call that I was doing, because I was on a panel, and I'm sitting there talking and I'm being animated. And and by the way, when I'm in video, I'm less animated. So because I understand that doing all these kinds of movements, though it works great, it can just be distracting. So I'm sitting there and I'm on this call and I'm going on and I'm doing my thing and I'm just very focused. And when I'm focused, Sandra is my witness. When I'm focused, I can just keep going. I mean, I'm not saying that if you pulled out a piece, I wouldn't notice it, but I'm just saying that for the most part, I ignore most things. And the room broke for a break, and everybody who had seen me walked up and they noticed that I was sitting there. And now there was like a little semicircle of people watching me because they couldn't really hear me that much. They didn't know what I was doing, and they were giving me the thumbs up and yeah and oh yeah. So how you deal with distractions is you have to train your mind to put it out of your mind. And also, no matter what, it's going to be crazy stuff is going to happen, because if you think that they have figured out how to isolate this, go look since the pandemic of how many people are on live, and they really are, it's crazy. Okay, what do you have?
All right, so I know you have more to cover, but what's your final best thing that someone can do?
Well, the final thing that I can say, this the small thing that you should absolutely do, and I learned this, by the way, so many years ago in a call center. I would say it was a phone room, but now it's a call center. Anyway, so one of the things is that I learned is that before you were going to go on shift and talk to people on the phone, and before I got on today, is that I went and I brushed my teeth and I cleaned my teeth. And it is a ritual, a ceremony, my friend Tom Malash would say, of which you go through and you do that. I have interviewed people that have had God knows what, that, we could have had a contest, what did Charlie or Cindy eat for lunch? But, I think that's a small thing that you can do. It is also a great way to kind of get your head wrapped around, what needs to take place and it says, okay, whatever I was doing before is over, and now I've got to get ready for this, because this is important. By the way, whenever you are going to record a video, you need to think about that this is important. You know, you want to make sure that you're ready to go. You want to make sure that you have things ready to go, and being able to be on topic and be there at that moment in time. So that's what I do, Sandra, is I brush my teeth, I get them all as pearly white as they're going to be, and say, yay, and kind of get my head thinking about this.
All right. So do you believe that there's such a thing as being in the zone?
I believe that. In fact, you saw that, you were actually the videographer for it. Is that the last interview I did at Freedom Fest was a great, marvelous guest. He's been on my podcast, which, by the way, is a Position Win podcast that I do with my co-author and co-conspirator Gabe Batista. Is that Adrian Day is an economist, and he and I are probably as different personality as you're going to find. And he wasn't sure if this was going to work or not work, and we got into the zone, and these are supposed to be. I mean, and when I say supposed to be, it's like there's no big giant oracle that you go to, but I always like to keep those kind of interviews to 20 minutes or 30 minutes or something. And Sandra's camera is going to overheat at some point in time as we're doing this. And we got in the zone for, like 35, almost 40 minutes. Now that happens when you have a great guest, when you're sitting there and you have a great topic and you're ready to go, and you can really just be yourself and do what you need to do. So I absolutely believe that you can be in the zone. And my hope that what you've gotten today from watching this, and you've spent some time and you've gotten some ideas, is that you find a way to get yourself in the zone and create some magic whenever you do one of these things. There is a lot to be said for being talented, and I've met some highly talented people in my life. There's also something to be said for those who are prepared, who will put in the effort and cultivate whatever talent you have and make it the best that you possibly can. And I believe if you do that, what you'll find out was Andy Warhol right that in the future, but now is the future. Today is the future. We're living in the future that he was prophesizing about. I don't know if he would be considered a prophet or not, but anyway, what he was talking about or speculating about is that in the future, we will all be famous for 15 to 20 minutes. Hopefully you'll be famous for longer than that, but most importantly, that you'll turn out great videos that people will love to see and do the best that you possibly can. If you ever want to get better at being a communicator, a seller, an evangelist, an advocate, however you want to see you get your message out, dealing with that intimidation factor of video and becoming really good at it, in my mind, is worth the significant effort that you should put into it, because the benefit is just immense. And with that, I want to thank Sandra, as always, coming on, and all of you. If you have not hit the like button, if you've not subscribed, if you've not hit notification, you've not joined the Facebook group on Position to Win book, well, what are you waiting for? Today is the day to do it. And in fact, if you have any comments or questions, put them in the Facebook group, and Sandra will filter them over to me, and we'll see if that can help you out in the future. And with that, all I can say is make sure that you do the best video you possibly can. And every time that you do it, try to be a consummate professional, because the difference between being a rank amateur and being a professional is that a professional knows that they have to prepare, and no matter what, they have to do their best that they possibly can.